Homestuck is a sin. Really, internet? I guess didn't have any reason to expect better of you, but come on. Alright, everybody pause the video right now. Read the Tumblr link that I just stuck in the description. It's pretty long, but I suggest you read all of it because I'm going to talk about all of it and all the reasons that I'm annoyed right now. Thank you. Pause. Okay, so you paused. First of all, I would like to apologize on behalf of all Christians because really, we should be beyond this. There are so many places in the Bible that God says, don't judge people, don't hate people, don't be an ass, don't point fingers, don't, you know, pretty much all the time. That's pretty much the entire message. I mean, there's other aspects of it too, but the one point of action that you're supposed to have as a Christian is to be kind, loving, and non-judgmental of other people. Really, I don't even know how so many thousands and thousands of people in places all over the world can just fail so utterly at that. It makes me embarrassed. I'm Christian. I don't understand it. It's hurtful because it means that a lot of people look at Christians and think that they're judgmental assholes, and I'm going on too long about that, but it really makes me mad. And so that's the one thing I'd like to apologize for that. And now I'm going to move on to the response, which mostly I agreed with it. I found it to be, I was like, right on, yeah, tell them. First of all, you know, the best defense of Homestuck is it's a freaking fictional comic. Nobody should be offended by fiction because fiction is a thing. And if you're going to be offended by fiction, you should distinctly be offended by what the fiction is saying. And I really urge anyone, I mean, if you don't want to read Homestuck, you're not going to read it. It's really long and it's hard to get into. But most of all, it's, you know, it doesn't say any, so far, I mean, you can't really tell until the end, but it hasn't said anything offensive. It's mostly just funny and interesting. But, you know, for the most part, I agreed with the person, but I think the one thing that I didn't agree with, and this, I guess, this is going back to my religiousness, but, Homestuck's not a religion. It's sort of weird. Like, they were going through and they're like, it's fiction, it's fiction, it's fiction, it's fiction. And then suddenly they were like, but it's this thing that can give everyone something to look for and hope for and be happy about. And this is a thing that's been really bothering me lately with a lot of fandoms. Fandom's not religion. Fandom can reflect some of the good aspects of religion, fellowship, feeling of belonging. But the fact of the matter is, those are all copying what religion is teaching you. God loves everyone. God is the reason that you can always feel happy and loved even when you don't fit into society's standards. It kind of makes me a little bit sad that people don't realize that, and that often religious groups tend to reject people because they don't fit into society's standards, when that's like pretty much the opposite of the mission. I don't like it. It makes me unhappy. But for the most part, yeah. So that I disagree with in the response, and I feel like it actually detracts from the message of fighting, because then it just sort of makes it kind of undermines religion. And if you're reading it as a Christian, it does make you feel like you're being fought against, and I don't really like that. Personally, it hurt my feelings a little bit, because there's a lot, and I'm sure many people out there feel the same way. There are lots of Christians who enjoy fiction and are part of fandom and don't choose to make their religion into something that they can judge other people with. And in saying that your fandom is your religion, you're pretty much rejecting people who choose to have a faith and also a fandom, and it kind of puts you at odds, because religiously speaking, it is a sin to worship your fandom over God, and I don't like that. So I felt like the response, mostly I agreed with it, but then it kind of undermined it. And then, but enough about my heavy stop offending me stuff. So this is something that nobody seems to mention, and I don't even know why. And this is my rule of thumb for being offended versus not offended when there are things that relate to religious scenarios. Is it interpreted correctly? Now, many would say that Homestuck has religious references. That's true. Everything has religious references. Well, not everything, but a lot of fiction relies on religious references. If you're an anime fan, you've been seeing meaningless crosses for God knows how long. But the fact of the matter is, basically, to me, it's whether it's offensive or not. So, let's say, like, I'm moderately offended by Evangelion. It's telling a story, but I'm a little offended because, you know, they turn the people representing God and stuff are these giant scary monsters that rip people apart and are being fought by, you know, this, you know, it's a really cool show otherwise. I still would watch it because I like interesting stories, and whether I disagree with the message or not doesn't affect whether I find the story to be interesting. But anyway, so I'm a little offended by Eva. You know what I'm not offended by, though? Penny Arcade. They have had a long-running joke with Jesus as a main character. He's like their buddy, and he is really good at video games, and he has unlimited ability to heal people, and, you know, that seems pretty awesome. To me, I think, you know, if Jesus was a guy living in, you know, our real world, he, would totally, completely be that awesome, and thus it makes sense. Because, I mean, yeah, it's cool, so Jesus is my guild leader. Anyway, so, continuing from that, I would like to talk about Homestuck and its interpretation of religion. Some would say it says it's offensive to religion, but I'm thinking of the only offensive statements that have been made about religion have been made by both Dave and Rose. They're characters with opinions, and personally, within their character, it actually makes a lot of sense for them to be fairly anti-religious at that point. I mean, I look at both of them. They're pretty much kind of, I could go into detail, but the fact of the matter is they pretty much fit the bill for someone that wouldn't like religion, and it's part of their character, and that's how they are. However, when you get to the big reference that I've been avoiding talking about up until this point, the big reference is, well, obviously it's the sufferer and his journey and all the characters who incidentally pretty much relate to distinctive characters from the Bible, and with the sufferer being Jesus Christ. A, it's fiction, and B, it's different, but the story itself pretty much matches, and it doesn't offend me in any capacity because it stays true. Jesus was someone who was, you know, who learned things and was raised and was living in a world filled with oppression, and he went around and basically, you know, told people that there was more to live for, and that, you know, and essentially undermined the oppressive nature of the regime that people were living in. And that's completely, I mean, that's completely in line. I mean, the story of the sufferer is extremely cool, and it's cool in the same way that the story of Christ is cool. And I don't find it to be offensive at all. Beyond that, people might not realize this, but Jesus was the first table flipper. There are stories of him getting extremely angry at injustice, oppression, blasphemy, all kinds of things. He would get mad and chew people out in a way that is not like that is just, you know, not unlike Carcat, which is why I love, I mean, not exactly why I love Carcat, but it's not an offensive comparison. And that's really all I have to say. This hasn't been a very organized vlog, but I just felt like I had to say something, because it just, on two hands, there's just, all the sides seem to, it just bothers me a little bit on either side. But the fact of the matter, my overarching opinion, is that Homestuck is not a sin. Fiction is not a sin. People need to shut the fuck up. Whether it's a sin or not is not for anyone who considers themselves Christian to judge or act on. And also, the sufferer is badass, and so is Jesus, so get over yourselves. Anyway, bye!